Netta Faye. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Um, I am going to get started here today. And today I am honored to have Edward Zaydelman with me and to talk about his work in Costa Rica, building eco villages and healing centers, okay? Which he's developed after experiencing corporate burnout. Okay. And he's going to talk to us about his work with Leap Forward organization and his involvement in the Dear Future Human Project. Okay. And we will also discuss uh, backgrounds in coaching and advising. Okay. So, Edward, I am so honored to be here with you today because I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers for 39 years and I love construction. Construction in life has a lot of parallels, okay? And so, as we know, and every time I look at your work down there, I'm like, you got to find something for me to do to come down there and to work with you, okay?
I have some ideas.
So, good. My bags are packed, okay? I'm ready to go. Hi, Brittany. Um, Please talk to us about how your work in corporate and what brought you to Substack.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me all right, by the way? It's good volume?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, so let's just start with the background is I grew up in New York. My parents immigrated from the Soviet Union so I could have a good life in the United States of America. And at a very early age, I loved community building. I was in nightlife. I worked at Burning Man. These weren't the healthiest examples of community at times. They were beautiful, but they also came with parties and different things that later I would mature from in certain ways. But there came a point in my life when my grandpa was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And yeah, I remember my whole family shifted overnight. We started eating organic, going to doctors to check ourselves in different ways, preventatively. And we changed our whole lifestyle. And my father quit his toxic business at the time. I had I'd been like working through college and high school. I was a promoter. So by the time I was done with college, I was so burnt out. I worked a little bit in finance for like 1 year at a hedge fund and I became even more burnt out. I was like, this is not my path. And my dad and I spoke and he said, "Look, things are changing in our lives and also in the country that I moved to some 20 odd years before that conversation. Let's look for a place where we could live healthy." And by the way, when I talk about Costa Rica, it could be upstate New York, it could be anywhere where you live in nature. Costa Rica, for us, was actually a very affordable country. The people were incredible, low crime rates, high literacy rates, no army. Um, and we looked at how could we work on something that helps people live better. And I was already into retreats and personal development. And my dad always kind of coached me with the books of Deepak Chopra and all these great Tony Robbins and Dale Carnegie's and, the classics, the Upanishads and all that. And I'm grateful for him for that because I didn't learn that in school. Um, but basically, we met as a family, and I'm like, I'm done in nightlife. He's like, I'm done in my hustle. Let's look where in the world the conditions for living a great life, thriving life are for us in alignment. And it was Costa Rica and the nature, most biodiverse country per square foot, very close to the US because I like to visit my sister and nephew and niece. I'm not like some expat who's like, F the US. I love America. I love coming back to North America, United States. Um, I live here just because this is where life brought me, and I go back a lot and I travel a lot in general because I'm curious about other cultures and bridging with them. But yeah, long story short, my family landed in Costa Rica 20 years ago. I stayed. Um, and our goal was to build an eco village where to build a community. I don't want to say eco village, that word is used a lot, but we wanted to build a sustainable community where we grow our own food. And instead of just the gym at the center, it's a real facility for health and wellness with juicing, with saunas, with the basics. We're not talking about like crazy stuff here. Um, but most of what healed later my mom, who got cancer, and my dad was diet. Um, I'll share more about that later. But, basically, we went to Costa Rica to try to do what a lot of my clients now do. I was like, oh, I got to build a community and a retreat, a healing center, and, all this stuff. And I didn't realize that later that would become another kind of rat race. I call it the eco rat race because yeah, I had a vision, but one, it's a download that like 90% of my friends who are in like my world got. And like, oh, we got to build eco villages and do nature, like regenerative stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not alone. And I was very naive when I started and I dove in here into a dream of what development, like in a foreign country, looks like from a home to a project, what marriage during an active startup looks like. And so a lot of times I'll share later when I coach, when I see couples, I'm like, wow, I had a divorce because we made very poor decisions of just blending everything, life, retreat center. I mean, we were both so burnt out. And a lot of the things she said about me, I'm like, wow, you were so right. Um, you know, you were so right because it was such a hustle to raise money, to host retreats, look like everything is the Swiss Family Robinson, but we were stressed out. We had group after group. We're cooking on this little 4 burner thingy. And, and also she was like, these like sustainable people, some of them are like so needy. They're not community, like, they're not what we came looking for. They're like worse. They're like, can you do community for us? And I'm like, can you keep your voice down, like to my ex wife? Because she was like, these people, they're more needy than just like average Americans. They're like enlightened and they know everything and they need towels for their meditation under the tree and the towels are going to turn brown because they're white. And I'm like, "Oh my god, she's so right." But I'll cut the story short that eventually the whole dream and fantasy that I had created, and it was just that. It was a fantasy. It was not grounded in reality. 10 years into it, life smacked me around and showed me when you don't listen, what happens. And I had my dark night of the soul and it all fell apart. My marriage, my retreat center, my relationship with my father, who I worked with. Um, and this was not the stuff that like people talk about when they're like, manifest your dreams. I did. I had the vision boards, I had etc. But I was also naive to how much hard work it takes, like, breaking your teeth, learning development, learning permitting, learning operations, learning the relationship between man and woman, potentially the hardest. And so, yeah, later after everything, kind of in my life collapsed, I needed space. And I walked away from everything, from my business, marriage, family for a bit and just needed quiet. I didn't take plant medicine, although I had in my journey before. I don't like knock it. I think it had its merits in my life, but I saw myself and so many others like seeking that it's going to fix stuff. It's not. So I did like, I did what in some of the old books people do is I went on a walkabout to be quiet in nature and, people appeared and lessons appeared and, later, I decided to continue a quiet life. I had to work, obviously, but I began to coach people and not making the mistakes I did, both in land stewardship and in life. A lot of people were coming to me, Ed, we want to build a retreat center or some cluster of Airbnbs with our friends because we saw it on Instagram and it's going to make us money when we're not there and we're going to live in harmony. And so I get it. And I know everything that they want. And like my job is to bring reality to them and help them clarify and hone in on their vision, on their budget and the practical stuff nobody helped me with. and resource them both as individuals and to do whatever they want to do on the land, but resource them with the best team. I'm still a nightclub promoter. It's just like architects and regenerative land people and permaculture people and my engineer who I freaking love and goes way too many times to check a property. So yeah, that's one side of it. And the other is that they're all humans with families and they're going through tough stuff. And if we don't address that first, there's no like land project in Costa Rica or Mexico or wherever they decide. So I'll pause there, but that's kind of my story.
It's really exciting because myself been an expat so many times, I have no problems traveling around the world or relocating, because we know we limit ourselves. We keep ourselves in this box. And then traveling around the world, you see when you open your mind and you open your heart, how many blessings come your way. Like meeting you, for example, and everybody else across my path. There's a reason people come in our path for. And so we should look at the opportunities that lay before us, right before us, and we don't even see it. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why I love diversity and inclusion
Mm.
because of the things that we can create if you stop and think about it.
Yeah, and by the way, that's you mentioned diversity, and it'll be a good bridge into leap forward and this part because yeah, I grew up in New York City, so I had friends who were black, white, Asian, rich, poor, Muslim, Christian, Jewish. But when I came to Costa Rica, you get kind of insulated here in general from what's happening in the world. And part of me is building bridges between people and cultures. I always did that. And when I got to Costa Rica, I told someone it reminds me of New York, and they were like, "How does Costa Rica remind you of New York?" And you go to the organic market at the heart of the capital city, San Jose. It's a place where people come to buy food, eat lunch on a Saturday. It's once a week. You see people from all over the world. I've met people from South America, Africa, Germany, you name it. And Costa Rica is just that. It was the land bridge of the Americas, the meeting place of the tribe. Literally a little bridge that connects North and South America. And prophetically, there's this prophecy of the eagle and the condor, the North and South coming together in unity from many of the tribes, and it was supposedly in Costa Rica will be where in the nest of the hummingbird. But look, for me, it's practical. I love the spiritual too, but it's a great place where I see people from all over the world. I talked to a Venezuelan man who walked through the Darien Gap because Venezuela is in shambles. And we were talking in the parking lot of a supermarket in the south of the country. And it's not about giving money. Like, I wanted to hear his story. And I'm like, oh my God, what this man went through and how many checkpoints he was robbed in. And it's nuts. And so I think now more than ever, given where the world is, which is at a tipping point everywhere, not just ecologically, schools, tech, social, geopolitics, local politics, the whole thing's kind of, yeah, sensitive, let's call it this way, in a sensitive tipping point. And so that for me, when we talk about bringing people together and bridging, in my Dark Night of the Soul, I met a woman. Her name is Ronit Hersfeld. You'll hear me talk about her a lot on my Substack, um, who really challenged me, Margaret. Um, She challenged me once when, like, we did the whole, I've heard about you. I hope only great things. And she's like, no, I heard like your whole eco village went down in flames in your marriage and like investors were pissed. And I was like, oh my God, what is this lady saying? And definitely I had not healed from it. Not in my years of
Mm.
ayahuasca, not in my walkabout. And I was curious about her. We met at a impact conference. She was a psychologist, but later I would learn like working like trauma crisis, mobile crisis unit, working in Queens with some of the toughest cases. But she also studied with great teachers, Ram Dass and Thich Nhat Hanh and Ken Wilber, and later worked with the Dalai Lama. So I'm like, whoa, this lady is something. Like, she is mixing both of those worlds, the science and the spirit, and she had so much heart. And she challenged me like Jesus to like live to my word. I was late to a meeting and she was like, "Is that you? Wishy washy?" And I was like, "Dang, is that me?" Like, I get goosebumps right now. No. And I'm like, "What do you do?" And she shared with me Leap Forward. At the time, there was no Dear Future Human. I'll share with you that. I was like, "What's Leap Forward?" And she's like, "We've been practicing interdependence, resilience, community on the court between people."
Mm.
Again, Asian, white, black, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, very rich, very poor, very middle. Um, it's incredible. And I was like, "Okay, and what's the goal?" And the goal was something very interesting for me. And I'll tell you why it relates to Costa Rica too. But I always looked at who am I? Like, why am I here? And what does community look like in the world? Like real authentic community, not when we're on drugs in the desert. No offense. Okay. I did it. I could say it. It's in my wheelhouse. But yeah. And so she basically showed me a project where there was strict rules, agreements, a container, a community where essentially all the stuff I learned spiritually that like 1% I was practicing, you need to practice it. She realized after all those years of psychology and of spirituality that the reason why the fruit of the tree of a lot of these great teachers, the students, they're not, thousands of enlightened people walking the earth, because it's really effing hard to change behaviors that have been rooted in our DNA for hundreds of years for survival, for this. So that takes time, period. Change takes time, nature is slow. And so she combined the two things I was curious about, like personal development, evolution, and community, and said, look, what if the community, the thing you needed to grow was people reflecting you? And what if that was the glue of community, people caring about each other's evolution? I'll tell you, Margaret, like, there's some weird people in my community. I was like, these are going to be my friends. No, right now they're like my study group. A couple of years later, I'm like, these are my brothers and sisters. They have dragged me through the
Mm.
mud, through relationships, divorces,
Oh.
arguments, speaking truth to my family, clients. I was a friggin' fraud. And they have been there through all my bullshit, reflecting me, excuse my language. That's community. And so what Ronit created was a school for my growth, my friendship. I speak to my father now. I have a stable business. I'm not some multimillionaire, but I'm not in the dumpster either. I'm fine. I dedicate half my time to nonprofit work with Leap Forward. And yeah, my relationships are stable. I feel honest and humble. And I owe that to my hard work, but also to her and that group of people because they changed my life. Yeah.
That is the gift of community, because they can see things about us that we can't see because they're on the outside, you know. And so to be able to have somebody to hold you accountable and reflect your back to you, like, oh man, I didn't see that, because other people see us better than we can see ourselves, right?
Yep. 100%.
Abs- Absolutely. Absolutely. So also talk to us about your work with the Dear Future Human Project.
All right. Yeah, I'm happy to. By the way, I it's a Saturday and I normally don't do coffee on Saturdays. I take it slow. I had coffee today, so if I'm talking a lot, Margaret, you slow me. You'll be my leap forward today. You just pause me, say Zaydelman, double click that or slow down. um,
No, no, keep going. Keep going.
yeah. So in Leap Forward, there's one thing that we do. Now, we meet as a community almost every day, bar weekends, different pods, a men's pod, a whole community pod, mostly to go through our stuff. And, like you don't have to do much. Life presents you something and then your stuff comes up. Oh, I'm angry. Okay, let's open up. Today it's Ed, tomorrow it's so and so. Um, and the Ronit's thing was, look, the place you learn the most is in projects. Now, in business and work, I learn a lot. Okay. Now, I had never been involved in philanthropy or nonprofit work. I donated a bit. But she's like, cool, we're not going to do it in the for profit world because the world's on effing fire. Okay. So we'll do projects authentically that inspire you. So two of the parents did a project, Heed the Children. So we are also a nonprofit that funds causes related to the work we do in mental health, human evolution, and the projects are chosen by the members. And I'll get to Dear Future Human, but to give you an example, Heed the Children is a project that parents and non-parents in our community created to support what's happening to kids using tech and social media at too early of an age. Okay, it's really degrading the minds of our youth. Um, We've done interfaith projects bridging Muslims, Christians, and Jews in a time where our religions are pitted against each other. Okay. We've done trauma healing initiatives. Um, there's beautiful work being done right now in the Abrahamic movement, bringing cultures together. There's so much amazing things. And one of our members that I mentioned, Deja, is doing these unity suppers that started in Baltimore and have spread. But they're basically suppers bringing together a lot of the Black, Jewish, Christian community, Muslim community inner cities and bringing mayors together too and saying, hey, we got to come together. Rabbis, imams, pastors. This is like, if we're going to survive, it's not about eco villages in Costa Rica. It's about interdependence and resilience. Me and you talked the other day how Heschel stood with Martin Luther King and how now some of my Black friends are standing with Jewish people as anti Semitism is roaring for the first time. And, to be honest, I was a sleeping Jew until October 7th happened. I don't want to get into politics between two countries. I'm talking about the murder of innocent Blacks, Jews, whites, Christians, Indonesians, Germans at a festival. That part, yeah. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm just fucking chilling here in Costa Rica, excuse my language, planting my garden, and I have the responsibility not to be enlightened, to be whole, to, to feel the pain in the world and the bliss. And yeah, these projects have opened me up to that. When we were doing anti Semitism mapping, we did it as a project, later became a tech thing. And I was surprised to learn it was like AI wasn't that strong then for me yet and for us. And so we had to map anti Semitic incidents just using Google in the news. And I learned that swastikas were appearing in 60% of K through 12 high schools across America. Yo, talk about me being asleep. This has nothing to do with Jews in the Middle East and Israel or whatever. This is swastikas. That's everyone, whether you're Hispanic, Asian, again, Jewish. So we're the canary in the coal mine. But what I was seeing was nothing to do with, specific religion. It was just, and my parents have had cancer. It was the spread of a cancer of hate and division. And so, yeah, my work now with Leap Forward is, if I can have an impact on something, I still garden. I love to garden. I do the ecological stuff. I consult people, but I've paused a little bit, half my time from my projects, which I love, helping my clients, coaching my people, to working on one project at Leap Forward called Dear Future Human. And Dear Future Human is a book. It's being released as a series of letters for free on Substack. Ronit doesn't do stuff for money. She's pretty humble. Leap Forward's free. Substack's free. She's not a guru. She like constantly de-pedestals herself. Only now is publishing a book because the world is burning and it's addressed to future of humanity in case we don't make it. Um, and offers a way out. And the way out is starting to rewire our ancient wiring that was needed for survival. And I needed it as a kid, all my defense mechanisms that psychologists are like, that thing. No, that thing kept me alive and kept us alive when woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers chased up us. But now we got Amazon to our door. And so what I've learned through Ronit, through Leap Forward is, holy crap, we're wired to perceive threats that don't exist. We grab land. We think we're in survival. We need to buy half of Costa Rica. Nations fight for territories, Russia and Ukraine. So, whether it's my clients or whether it's rulers of countries or whoever, we're acting, and myself, we're acting on old wiring. And I'm actively in pursuit of rewiring myself before changing the world, you know? My buddy said, change your own ass first before changing the world. That's the problem with your generation, Ed. And I was like, damn, Faisal. Yeah, man, I got to change my own ass. And that's dedicating years to rewiring. So yeah, I support Dear Future Human as my kind of project within Leap Forward that I that I love and I learn from. And now the Future Human Institute, which I can't say too much about yet, but it'll be essentially doing the opposite of Instagram. It'll be using the stuff we've learned through many disciplines: psychology, neurology, sociology, evolutionary biology. You got to combine, everyone's in silos. And if we're going to make it, just like Manhattan Project or CERN or all these big projects where we go to the moon, we work together as scientists and intellectuals from different countries. And why can't we do that for humanity who's about to effing blow each other up? What eco village? What retreat center? I'm sorry, I know it's my work, but what retreat center when we're killing each other? So
Speak,
yeah,
speak,
and
speak.
yeah, so that's it. So with the Future Human Institute, it's a moonshot, but um, it's a group of people coming together from different walks of life and different specialties to use tech and non-tech to help do the opposite of Instagram and rewire a lot of it's possible. By the way, it's not like some hocus pocus. Science and tech has gotten to a place where we have wearables, we have things that can help us say, hey, Ed, you're speaking too fast, or Ed, you're this, and it shakes. So we can rewire. It's not going to be easy, but it takes like billions of years to evolve. But if we don't try, what's the price? So yeah, that's what I dedicate my time to now, which is Dear Future Human, and supporting, just doing the work that we do person to person with everyone I meet. Even if I can't change the world, maybe from 44 people listening, one person's like, dang, I needed that. So yeah.
Before I forget, let me ask you about the ayahuasca because I've been looking for somebody to talk to about that, and
Oh,
so since you want to talk about that, that's
yeah,
part of the healing, right?
yeah, I have a deep reverence for this subject, and I just want to give a disclaimer because there's I don't like drinking the Kool-Aid. And there's when something's cool, you got to be really careful. When everyone and their grandmother is trying it, you got to be really careful. These are psychoactive chemicals that I've seen can lead to incredible change and could also lead people to some really rough stuff. And so I saw plant medicine first as part of an indigenous experience in Costa Rica where, kind of like in the books, I sat with a shaman somewhere deep in the jungle. And I'll share about my experience. It was not during the dark night of the soul. It was when I got to Costa Rica and I was learning the songs of the ancestors there. And somebody in the organic environment invited me to plant medicine. And I had heard about it. Obviously, I grew up in nightclubs. I went to Burning Man. So I had explored things, but never for my healing. They were always for fun. Um, and plant medicine really opened me up. But the reason why I gave that whole disclaimer is like, I have clients now who are like, oh man, I took ayahuasca. I had an awakening. I'm going to donate all my money to this indigenous tribe, start a retreat center, maybe divorce my wife. And I'm like, oh my God, please slow down. Please slow down. God heavens, do you have a psychologist or anyone to help you integrate? And so if we talk about plant medicine, and I have friends who run legitimate clinics for war vets with PTSD, there's a very serious approach to this with licensed people or people maybe who don't have a license but have a PhD in their own right. Some tribes and others, they don't have the same stamps. But the point is set and setting. Like, what mindset are you in and what's the setting you're doing it? Who are you with? So if anyone is even thinking about this path, it has to be with preparation, integration, experts. Do not just like think this is going to solve your problems. Later I would keep coming back to the grandmother or a variety of different plant medicines like it's going to solve my problems. No, it might give you a bit of answers, but you got to do the work. It's not going to do it for you. And it's really recommended. Again, you have a psychologist, a specialist, I just met a bunch of psychotherapists who work but my mom said something. She was like, "Yeah, why so many people take the medicine if she's Russian, if they're sick, if they're not sick?" And I'm like, it's a great question. If you're not sick, why take medicine? She also called me out. She was like, nightlife and parties became ceremony and nightlife and drugs became ceremony and medicine. And I was like, well, call it like it is. But look, I did have a massive awakening, whatever you call it, thing when I took it. I it was not when I was sitting. I had to go to the bathroom and I walked outside from this little hut. I was kind of pissed because I was like, in the movies and in the books, you have these wild visions. And all I had was like stuff that came up around my father and my mother. And I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. I want to see the rainbows and galaxies. Little did I know that, yeah, it gives you what you need. But I had gone to the bathroom and I had touched this banana tree and paused for a second and just wanted to take in the nature around me before going back into the hut. And, yeah, I looked up at the stars and all of a sudden, like, it was really weird because the things that I saw started moving, like vibrating with sound, like a heartbeat. I could see like all the stars interconnected with lines and like beating. And I looked at the banana leaves that were against this like very moonlit night. You could see them so bright, like full of life. And they had this like glow around them and the same heartbeat. And I get goosebumps because then I looked at my arm and I had the same glow and heartbeat. And I was like, oh my God, I'm one with everything. Now that was really cool. But when I met Ronit and I shared about all my enlightened experiences, she was like, "I heard you're still an asshole." And I'm like, "Yep, that's correct." So the point is everything with a grain of salt. Like, yes, it helped show me stuff that years of reading books. I was like, yo, it ain't about the books. Close your eyes, feel what you're a part of. When I pray in the morning, it's not, it's just feeling like this life force that's around me and letting it wash over me. But it's really about what you take out onto the court, and I'm a Jew, but I think Jesus was such a good teacher. He wasn't it's not pointing at the moon, you miss, he wasn't saying worship me, he was saying walk the way I walk, which was, like, treating people with integrity and being good to your neighbor, and so I look at that stuff and I look at, like, yo, so many spiritual people I meet here who are just not caring for the land and for others. And it's not about spirituality or this or that. It's just about being a good human. Pausing when that person on the subway asks you a question, not being in a rush. What you need? Yeah, my stop's coming, but what do you need? you know? So yeah, that's the part that I think I try to cultivate now is the practical goodness, and I don't do plant medicine much anymore. I don't really use absolutes. I haven't done it in years. And yeah, it was a really important part of my path, but there's more. Like life, yeah, life is your buffet. Take from all these cultures, from indigenous, from science. Science is very advanced. We know things that many indigenous cultures don't know. So when I was down with the Shipibo of Peru, I shared stuff too. It's my responsibility. We're not just all seekers here. They have wisdom like I couldn't imagine about the earth. And yeah, I'm blessed. I grew up also with certain knowledge and wisdom that, I went down there to help their retreat center. And I'm like, yo, I know some things that are going to help you with my technology. As a Jewish guy from Brooklyn, it's business, but that's okay. And the shaman and I just chatted like two humans. I was like, Don Miguel, you're pretty cool. Like he was just wearing a soccer jersey. I was like, I thought you were going to be in a headdress. And he's like, no, man, like we have so much going on. Our country's getting exploited, got these like crazy things happening, and I live in the same world as you. And it really blew my mind that, like, a lot of people like romanticize all this plant medicine and indigenous tribes. They're just regular people, dealing with stuff, and they have a deep knowledge of the land that is still in their oral traditions and in their blood. And like, we're people of a modern world, so use everything you learn. We're students of life. So plant medicine conversation closes for me, and it's important and it's not everything. Let's put it that way.
Well, we know more now than we did before. So knowledge is power, and more so when we use it, and we know that. So, so Edward, talk to us about this human evolution that you referred to several times.
Mm. Okay, I'll do my best as somebody who's passionate but not an expert. I read a lot of stuff. Ronita is an expert who has a degree. Other people, scientists out there, McGilchrist and others who talk about human evolution. So the largest study, the largest psychological study in history was spiral dynamics. It basically mapped like the evolution of humans from hunter gatherers who needed to survive to other stages where we learned how to build stuff, etc. But there are these different colors for stages of evolution from primitive to more advanced. And I'm not going to go over the whole spiral dynamic thing right now, but you could look it up, spiral dynamics, in Google. It'll come up. Um, but I was interested because it has data behind it, and it basically characterizes things that I knew. It talks about it in colors and memes. And so the red meme, I think, was, when people were, I think it was like the 80s and 90s, and Wall Street was booming and people were extracting oil and bombing countries. And we're like these like capitalists, need to survive, need to make money. And then later we evolved into these very woke people who drive hybrid Honda Civics and live in California and the suburbs now of New York City because we're woke, and we live in nature and we have our garden, an organic store, and Whole Foods now started. And, also in all these movements, as you've seen, so much finger pointing. Same person who had an oil rig is now on like a eco yacht pointing his finger at the degradation of the Amazon. So you see, and then, yellow is where a lot of society is getting to now, where many people are aware that something's going on, usually in their area of interest with kids or the environment or politics or war, whatever. So you have people now like yourself and people listening who are like, whoa, some things are going on in the world. I might not know exactly what or what's the thing, but you get a signal in your body, right? That, some shit's messed up. I mean, how long you got to wait till it gets to your front door, Ronit says? And so from that point of view, one of the problems is, or one of the issues is, when you look at the human mind, it took years to develop, millions of years to develop. Okay. And the evolution of our mind, is not going to change overnight. The evolution of humans being in survival, fear, scarcity, myself with a fear to survive. I'm all alone. It's not my reality, but I wake up feeling alone some days or that I'm in survival risk. It's our human wiring. It's not your fault. Now, how do we evolve it? That's the question. So, in spiral dynamics between yellow and the next stage, which is turquoise or teal, it's a huge gap. It's a leap. It's a leap through the unknown because in the yellow stage, we're just identifying problems. And I got so tired, Margaret. I'm sorry, of all the TED Talks and conferences where myself and other experts are talking about all these problems in the world, but where's the solution? Hmm. What are we doing? So, I brought up like friends of mine that are doing work in the space we are in. And I realized, like, yo, we go to conferences, we talk about some stuff, and then what do? We had some good dinners, feels good. I'm part of community. Woo! But what are we doing? And so in turquoise and teal of human evolution, it's interdependence. It's integrated cooperation. It's cooperation between people. And so that's the work of Leap Forward on the court. And it doesn't happen without rubbing. I'll give an example of one of the female members, confronted me of coming late to a meeting. Okay. And because of my perception, because of my glasses, my lens of perception, my ego that was developed to protect me, when she confronted me on being late, I saw my mother yelling at me. She's not my mother. She's quite young, but I projected my mother. And I was like, yo, what a bitch, excuse my language, you know? And then, like, because she's more, women are so much more emotionally aware. She was like, yo, I feel like I'm being like my mother, who's like domineering. And I'm like, yo, I feel like you're being like my mother. And I'm her son, this like kid who's like, yo, stop like raining on my parade. And the whole point is, without beating each other up, very quickly we're able to notice the pattern, name it, pause. What's going on here? Me and her are friends. We're not arguing about why I'm late. There's something up. What's coming up is a loop and a projection. So we name it. Okay. Name it. I've written some book, name it, then claim it, then tame it. So we name it. Then we bring it out into the open. You're not my mom. I'm not your son. What's true? What's true is we got into a heated thing and it brought this up around this pattern, you know? Cool. What's the lesson here? I need to show up on time. Okay, got it, whatever. You don't, yeah. So the thing is, then we reprogram because we see what's true. And this is the problem where a lot of self help, like get stuck in the problem in the story. We know the story. As a child, I had an issue with my mom. I wanted to be a good boy. I wasn't impeccable. She wanted me to be. And yes, then it comes up, 40 years later as a grown ass adult when my friend wants me to be impeccable to my word. I signed the freaking contract. And yes, I will be on time or I will let her know why. If I'm stuck in traffic, there's no problem. It takes a message. So this stuff, communicating like an adult, being impeccable with your word, people freak out about it at Leap Forward, but it's everything. It's everything. I didn't know that till later. I was like, what's the big deal? And, how you do anything is how you do everything. What do you mean, what's the big deal? What happens when you're in the army and then the coordinates were wrong? You know what? Yeah, I'm not right now in the battlefield, but it's life. You got to be impeccable. It's going to have costs today at work, tomorrow with your family. Or how many arguments I had that I didn't realize I was wearing those glasses, and I make amends now, living amends, through my actions, not saying sorry, saying like, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to take it in and be a better human in my actions and not do that shit over and over. Like husband can apologize to a wife for hitting her and say, I didn't mean to abuse you. Doesn't make it okay if he says I'm sorry the next day. So it's the same with the other hits and stabs that come from here. So yeah, don't mean to go off on a tangent, but that's it.
No, 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 no. This is reinforcement. Thank you for that. Okay, because sometimes we think we're wrong and we hear from another person like you reinforce what I've already felt and I've already stated that's what's going to be happening from now on. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. You are the mirror, okay? And that's why we like-minded individuals need to stick together.
Yeah.
Okay? You are somebody that I could work for proudly.
Wait, together.
Okay?
When I left
It
corporate,
is.
there was no more fours and that. I'm like, I'm done with corporate. I'm just working with people. I learned from my clients too, because they did crazy stuff in their walks of life. So I asked one of them questions that, has succeeded in American standards very well. I'm like, yo, how do you, like there's stuff I didn't learn, how to save money, how to manage stuff, even with the small amount of it. I'm like, what do we do now? Like, world's changing, dollars changing, there's Bitcoin, people are buying land. I have friends, I had a buddy buy land for 10K. It doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire. I'm just asking about like, yo, what do you do? Like, how much do you donate? Is it 20% of what you earn? Is it 10%? I want to build donation into my financial model, you know, for my life. Even if I make $2,000 of income at the end of the year, that's $200 of donation or whatever the formula is for you. There's a book about that. Tithing really is incredible because I think in Christianity it's tithing, in Judaism it's tzedakah, but so much of my life was in selfish pursuits of my own survival, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, like I'm okay, I'm definitely okay. Um, I had to cut some expenses and do some stuff. I changed my life like 100 times, burned the house down 100 times, but I got a stable house now. It's a small house. It's a very small house, but it's stable, and from there I could do, yeah, God's work for me here.
Anything. Okay, you can do anything from there. Now let me ask you a question about monetization because growing up in the Baptist church, Christian, like you talk about tithing is something that it's just like breathing, okay? Paying it forward, okay? Um what was the point? Oh, they tell you to minister to the people. They don't tell you how much to charge,
Mm.
okay? And it's a struggle for me. Um So, what's your opinion? Because you're doing the nonprofit work. So,
I'm gonna
when
give
you
you a
said Renee,
for-profit opinion. People on Substack, they want to hear about that money. No, I'll give you both. I gave you the nonprofit opinion, is dedicate as much time as you can. Some of my friends have an hour free a day because they're parents and they got jobs. It's not about how much time you dedicate. I found my balance that I could work half time, do this half time. Some months I can't. I got more work, but I do want to talk about coaching and value because you're in that industry. And when I left corporate, I met a buddy, Phil Powers, who I knew from a while back, who's in digital marketing. And I told him, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done working for corporate. I want something stable where I could focus on my inner development. I don't need millions. I need to pay for my expenses and save a little. And he said, man, like, you've learned a lot of stuff through successes and mistakes. You should consider creating your knowledge as a coaching or advisory offering. We spent 9 months. He meticulously helped me create what became my work later, which was essentially helping people not make the mistakes that I did in land stewardship, and I was already in Leap Forward. So I took a deep personal care for the people I work with. It's not just like I'm your coach, I'm going to help you build a retreat center. I'm going to tell you if it's not for you. And that's, like I have a huge rate. I don't know the exact statistic of people that I paused their projects because their lives matter more. And I'm like, what retreat center when your kids don't have time with you? That's your retreat center. Focus on your family and call me in a year. And there's always more clients. It's like holistic doctors. It's not about like keep on treating patients. Keep people healthy. There's always people you'll that'll be on your path. It's I don't know how many billion people on the planet. So I treated coaching with a deep level of integrity, mostly from what I learned in Leap Forward. Um, I didn't want to con people into believing some dream like, oh, it's so easy to build an eco village or retreat center. No, I do build projects for people, but they're professionals or they're novices who spent 20 years becoming professionals, making mistakes. Um, I take this stuff seriously. And a lot of times I just talk people down to building a house that they could rent out if they want it to be kind of, if they're like, oh, but I want like people to come and enjoy. And I'm like, build some cabins. You don't need a whole retreat center. If you went to Cornell Hospitality School and your life is this is your gift, just like somebody's a race car driver, painter, I'll gladly work with you. I have clients like that who are experts, and I love it because we're pushing each other and questioning things. I love my job. But my focus is typically on pre-development. So I'm really helping people wrangle in their vision and financials and all that stuff. And I charge for that because I save them a lot of money and mistakes. And when I started, I charged a little and I charged by hour. And then Phil was like, no, like, man, a locksmith used to take an hour to open a lock, and now he does it in 5 minutes because of technology. So what? You're going to pay him less because he's doing it better? No, man, he still charges that same rate or more. People are so greedy. And so, no, like, I'm very, like, now that I look at my work and people are like, wow, that's a lot by hour. I'm like, it's not by hour. I'm like, we're in an energetic partnership here. You're calling me sometimes when you're in the freaking low of it. I have clients call me like, I need help. But no, it's not by hour, it's by the value of what I'm bringing and what you're receiving, and if it doesn't work in a month, pause, you know? I like to do a month with people sometimes or a call just to, like, see how like, to date before we get married, but once I start, like, the real relationships, sometimes it's multiple years with people, and it's not coaching, we're working together at that point. We're in a partnership. Even the payment structures, the financials might change where it's different and there's incentives and other cool stuff. So I'm always evolving that work. But what I wish somebody told me was charge what I'm worth in the beginning so that I could spend half my effing time at a nonprofit. And so now people who are like, you charge a lot, I'm like, you're a millionaire. I'm working on helping your kids. Here's the link to the Stripe. If you need PayPal or Zelle, I got you. But, yeah, I'm pretty straight about money because there's, like, there's conscious capitalism, there's, what's the other book? Sacred Economics, there's books on, like, the sacredness, and Phil and Carolina, their business called Sacred Business Flow. Quick shout out, holla at your boy and girl. Um, but yeah, there's nothing unsacred about having a good business to provide for you and others. If you have overflow, I don't care tithing or not, just give to others. I know so many rich people who don't give, and I call them out because I like that. I'm like, yeah, I did a nonprofit event for the this group here that like supports all the indigenous tribes. We were trying to raise 2K for a women's like community gathering center for the women of this tribe. It's $2,000. I got people building crazy projects. I throw this fundraiser. I spend 2K on the dinner to bring like 100 people together, and I raised $400. And I called a few people. I WhatsApped them. Ronit nudged me. I'm like, yo, what happened with that donation? What happened there? Like you building that house for 2 to 3 million. What happened to that donation? Later, I put that nonprofit on this like crypto payment like thing. And a few of my clients were in the blockchain crypto space, they donated over $20,000 over the course of a year. We built multiple indigenous centers. We unlocked so much money for good for me. I know 20K is not a lot for some of y'all, but for me, seeing project by project, and for those tribes, I was proud of the work we did this year. And we have this Land Steward Alliance where we meet and we share best practices. But end of the day, like we're in another person's country, period. No extraction, no gentrification, no neocolonization conversations can exist when you support and listen to the people of this land and let that information inform your action. I have friends my buddy spent 7 years learning his property, one, walking it, planting food on it, and talking to his neighbors, learning the gifts that they have, learning the needs that they have, seeing how he fits into the ecosystem. In regenerative development, we call it nested holes, but you're part of a larger whole. You don't need ayahuasca for feeling that. Go talk to your neighbors. So yeah. Yeah.
Been an amazing conversation. Let me see if anybody have any questions.
Yo, Margaret, a lot of people tell me like, oh, like you need a big audience to go live on Substack, but I've been on some people's thing. Nobody has 54 people. I'm like, Margaret's rocking right now.
No,
You're
that's
kicking
you.
butt.
That's you.
That's me? Nice. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if there's any questions. I'll check it out. Uh, sea urchin. Uh, uh, uh.
I'm grateful for everybody that showed up, even if it was just one.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for life, for you,
Mm,
and for Substack, okay? Because this has really changed my life. It's been transformational. When
mm,
I look back from the year when I started till now, much more confidence, much more, I feel much more whole as personal person and as a coach and as a leader. Okay. We lead by example. So every day when I'm done, I'm looking in the mirror to
Mm.
see what changes I can make today to become a better leader tomorrow. Okay. So, based on all of these things, what else would you like to share?
Well, one, I was like, I was thinking a question to you is like, what excites you for 2026? What are you working on? I'm curious, like, where our worlds are going to intersect beyond Substack. I'll share a few like links and things later, but what excites you um, this year to come?
Well, what excites me is what things I can create in 2026 and bring all the people that subscribe and follow me along with me, so
Yeah.
we can continue to raise the bar and continue to extend our reach and our impact. We're already being felt internationally.
Hmm.
Okay, so how can we continue to expand that? Okay.
Spread that fragrance. Yep. I follow your work. I follow your Substack. I encourage others. And yeah, I think a lot of the stuff we covered today, if people want more information on, I guess, either subject matter, for the Leap Forward stuff, I suggest reading Dear Future Human on Substack or dearfuturehuman.us. And check out Leap Forward's website if you're interested in our nonprofit projects or just what we do. It's leapforward.us. We're not some secretive organization. Fill out the contact form if you want to learn more. This isn't a hustle. We don't charge anything. We just spread some good fragrance. And those are two important links. If you want to learn more about what I do or even the subject matter, my Substack, livethepossibility.news. I write a lot of stuff for free and interview people for free on purpose. You don't need my coaching or consulting. Read that stuff, watch that stuff. If you're doing a project, you want to reach out, you'll see a bunch of contact stuff, but information. But please, like I do this not just for myself, but for you all to yeah, to learn from and enjoy. So that's all I got.
You are fabulous, and I see all your pictures and notes, and it just brings so much joy to my life. Okay, and who knows where our paths will meet in the future, but I welcome it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Anchorage to Costa Rica, Eagle and Condor. Let's do it.
All right. Let's go. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Appreciate
you all.
it.
All right. Bye bye.